Hey there, folks. Hope you're doing well today. Something very interesting is happening. All those people on the right who were so excited and demanded the Epstein files be released, well, they've lost their interest. And we can see that in a number of different ways. But this is a really good example right here. This is a poll from Blaze TV. This was formerly Glenn Beck's network. And here we can see they're asking their audience, what's the topic you're most interested in right now? And we can see that 12% of the audience is interested in the Greenland deal, 21% of the audience is interested in the Epstein files, while the majority, 61% of the audience, is interested in the Minnesota Somali fraud. And so this leads to this question. Why did so many people on the right lose interest so quickly in the Epstein files? And it probably has to do with expectations and QAnon. If we go back to the core ideas and the claims of QAnon, the whole idea was there was a secret global cabal of powerful elites, right? Politicians, celebrities, media, bankers, running a massive child trafficking and abuse network, secretly controlling governments. And Donald Trump was recruited to fight them from the inside. And you have to remember, the cabal was supposedly made up of Democrats, Hollywood celebrities like Tom Hanks, billionaires, global institutions. And yes, the Epstein files had a lot of that. But you got to remember, the core idea was Trump was the hero. He wasn't chaotic or corrupt. He was strategic. Every scandal, investigation, or even loss was part of the plan. He was secretly working with the military and intelligence agencies, even while not in office. All in this hidden operation they called the Storm. Now, you have to remember what this did for MAGA. It gave them a sense of this secret knowledge and this moral superiority that they were protecting children, all while you had clear villains and the chosen savior of Donald Trump. But then to see Donald Trump try to block the release of the files and even attack his followers for wanting the release of the files. And then finally seeing the files and seeing he's all over them. And then be able to understand why he wouldn't have wanted them released. They were just let down again. Just like Benghazi, just like the Biden crime family. And so after having all these expectations that Hillary was going to go to jail and Obama was going to go to jail, they were just let down again. But going back to this poll, we now see that they're all putting their hope in this Somali fraud case. And we actually made a video on this channel showing how Nick exposed himself to go there when they weren't even open, when it wasn't even operating hours. So, of course, there was going to be no kids there. And so we find ourselves in this situation where Nick is a fraud trying to expose fraud. And guess what? There's no fraud there other than Nick. So again, all of these people are just going to be let down. Again, this is what it's like to be on the right. This is because they're just lying to you over and over again. You keep learning it the hard way, but you just stay there like you're in some abusive relationship. But it gets even better because, again, the people on the right are now doing the work for us. So James O'Keefe, someone who does these hidden camera exposés, and he's actually been proven to lie quite a bit and manipulate situations, so you have to take it all with a grain of salt. But he recently had one of his employees go out on a date with someone in the FBI and got that FBI agent to talk about the Somali case that's coming up. There is some credibility here because this FBI agent was fired after going on camera. Let's take a look.
I am a security specialist at the FBI, so I do background checks, investigations, that type of stuff. I've been working there for 5 years now.
On hidden camera, this FBI security specialist tells us the quiet part out loud.
So you don't think there's going to be any major arrests with Cash Patel or the FBI?
No. Also, I don't think anybody would ever go to prison.
Now, thanks to the brave work of citizen journalists like Nick Shirley, Americans were able to see what actually happens in Minnesota outside these daycare centers.
Do you think they're going to arrest people that are dealing with the daycare stuff?
I think by the time that case is done, even being looked at and ready to go to court, Trump won't even be in office anymore. Like, they would most likely be thrown out very quickly.
Okay, and so there we can see him make his claims, and he does have some pretty good points. But I mean, what it really comes down to, and this is what everyone in MAGA always points to, is there's never any charges. Well, I mean, they did try, right? Letitia James, James Comey, the Biden crime family, of course, Hunter Biden, because he's the most dangerous of them all. But none of those charges stick. And you want to know why? Because there's no there, just like in the Somali fraud case. Now, we're not saying fraud doesn't exist. It happens all the time. And I mean, I don't know. I think maybe a court found that Donald Trump committed it repeatedly and consistently, but they don't seem to actually care about that. But here, we're going to see James actually go off the rails and talk about how there needs to be more oversight and people need to be held accountable. But again, completely ignoring all the fraud that Donald Trump committed. This is just a bizarro fucking world.
Over the last few months, I've said that if arrests do not happen, if people are not held to account, then we'll have no choice but to investigate the investigators themselves, investigate the prosecutors themselves at every level. We understand that incentives govern human behavior more than virtue does, and people are demanding that people be held accountable. People are reminding you that we're a nation of laws. But that only works if the people in government, if the people in power do the right thing. So now the question is, what will it take to get accountability and arrests? And we believe that what it will take is oversight, watching the watchmen, or in Latin, custodiae ipsos custodes, who guards the guardsmen. Where is the Department of Justice? Where is the federal government? And why aren't they doing their jobs? What is actually going on in the nation's capital?
Then, I mean, at this point, it's just amazing to see James O'Keefe over here say, why isn't there accountability? Why isn't there charges? Again, he gets let down over and over and over again and still can't figure out why. Someone should break the news to him that in order for, there to be evidence of crimes, there needs to be evidence that meets a burden of proof. And that the only time someone went to court, and we saw that, was with Donald Trump. So if he wants to hold someone accountable, oh boy, all these people are just so stupid.
Leopards are eating my face. Leopards are